Middle Path Radio, your number one Islamic talk station.
Call the studio or send a WhatsApp/text message to 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. Email info@middlepathradio.com or visit middlepathradio.com.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to all our listeners. My apologies for coming on late. As you probably know, I've got my new show now on Middle Path Radio. Thank you to all those listeners who have actually logged on middlepathradio.com. Big jazakallah to you for taking, being patient and waiting for us to bring the live particular show. Now, this is tonight with Abjol Bai. I'm here in the studio, and it's fantastic to be back on radio again, especially on the internet. The internet provides such opportunities. I know a lot of people are online. People don't drop their smartphones. Everyone is hooked to their smartphones and hopefully you are actually listening to us. If your friends and colleagues are not listening, you know what to do. Send them a poke, send them a message on Facebook, whatever you use, Twitter. Let them know, your presenter today is Abjol Bai. I'm a community activist, also a radio presenter as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help out with the management here. Obviously, they've got an Islamic online radio programs happening at various different evenings, and they've got various different other activities happening during the daytime as well. I've actually tuned in and listened to some of the nasheeds and recitations. Fantastic, very good for the community to have something like this. The management wants a variety of different presenters, and obviously when they've approached, I did, why not? I'll probably bring something new, different, or it could be the same. I have done other radio shows as well, and I do like to bring some controversy for discussion, and and we need your help in doing so. So one of the things I'll be doing is I'll have the hot seat, and every week I'll try and bring a guest in. If I bring a guest in, what I will do is I'll get them to call us, so I'll call them, and I will, in a very simple language, harass them as much as I can, try to get as much information out of them, and also, make my show an educational show so that you get to learn and you get to scrutinize and you get to also hold people to account as well, and we can all share the learning together. I know people are listening to us, so you're online, so what we want is we don't want just listeners. On my show I want people to actually call in. I do want my show to be more interactive as well, so if you can give me a call so I can test the telephone line system if the lines are working. The line number is 07477 080248, and you're listening to Middle Path Radio on.com. And it's wonderful to be able to be back on radio. And today, what have I got for you today? Today, basically, we want to cover two areas. I've got a guest that's coming. And as soon as the guest is here, we'll be discussing some community issues, a bit of politics. You can't have a community discussion radio show without some politics involved. So you probably know my background. I have a bit of a political affiliation. My political affiliation is to the local community. So if you're someone who's a communitarian, why not? There's nothing wrong with being communitarian. And that really basically means that you're very much interested in benefiting your local community. And the way you go do that is you've got certain objectives, and you do your best, work together with other people to make sure those objectives are met. And I do that as best as I can in various different ways, through sport, through helping people, and as a local councillor, making sure my representatives who supported me and those who didn't support me are getting the services that are due to them, being a resident of Tower Hamlet, and also those who live in St. Peter's Ward. And today one of my guests is going to be a very important guest, and once he's here, you're going to be able to fire your questions at him. Or you can actually text. I know there's a lot of shy people out there who just want to listen, and they don't really want to speak. And my objective is going to be that I want to really, really kind of work hard to increase people calling in because I want live discussion. I want people to be able to call up, with their views, with the issues that they have, with solutions from their respective areas, and wherever it may be, national or international, concerns that you may have as well. And I know a lot of people have been discussing about various different topics and that, and I'll be throwing you some topics very soon. And just to kind of remind everyone, those people who are listening from abroad, not for the UK, we've had some big demonstrations, in Glasgow, London, and that. People are coming out on the streets due to low pay and the austerity program that's been implemented by the government. It looks like there's a lot of people who are very, very upset with the way the government's actually carrying out the austerity program. It is having severe impact. When my guest comes in, we'll talk about how that austerity program is having an effect on the local government. If you are a council worker, if you do work for local authorities, it'd be very good for you to give me a call, your insight to how you are managing your council borough, and if your council borough is actually delivering the best value for money for your local community. Now, we are, end of the day, as a Muslim community, we're doing our best to, present and kind of like take on the best opportunities that we have amongst us within our communities. And there are many communities who lack a lot of resources. I know some council boroughs, not to mention them, they may try and sue me, but I'll see what the legal status is in that. But there are some councils who actually, I would say, really, really failing the local residents in that, yeah. And I'm very proud to be in Tower Hamlets, and I think the borough here is actually doing well, Can do better, but it's doing well at the moment. So these are some of the thoughts that are going to be bringing to the discussion. As you can hear, there's a buzzer. That's not the fire alarm. That's actually the guest who's coming in. That's an indication that the guest is here, and hopefully I'll have the guest. So we'll have a early discussion around community issues and that, and then after that we want to speak about the new killer disease, Ebola, and I've got an Islamic scholar who will be calling, and then he'll be kind of like giving us his perspective on disease that affect the community and contagious disease and how we manage disease from a Muslim perspective. So hopefully we'll have a good opportunity to get to hear from Abdullah Hassan. He's travelling down from north, and he's going to be joining us after 9:30. And excuse me, you'll have the opportunity to fire all your questions in that. And let me give you some kind of ideas as well, what kind of questions you could kind of ask him. And let's say there is a contagious disease amongst the Muslim community. Would you be happy to pray right next to him? If you knew that if he sneezed, that will come onto you. What is the Islamic opinion on that? Can the mosque committees actually bar people from actually coming into the masjid, knowing that they may have some symptoms of certain diseases? It doesn't have to be Ebola. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about Ebola a bit later on. But any other kinds of kind of illnesses or viruses that can actually have an impact. We know illnesses is very important. You can, if you go to various different universities, they are actually studying the whole concept of health and illness and how to manage illness as well. And I think now we're in a crisis where Ebola is actually spreading so fast. We've got over 4,000 people in West Africa who's lost their life. And surprisingly, not many non-West African people have lost their lives. I know one or two have recently now. But that also raises some question about the factual evidences that have been portrayed. I know in America there's a big controversy going on. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that actually been blasting the internet, Facebook, and YouTube with the counterclaims that the American governments and the health bodies over there are actually exaggerating the seriousness or non-seriousness of the particular disease in order for the pharmaceutical companies to be able to push some of the drugs in West Africa. And also we're aware that there's a fast track in actually these pharmaceutical companies in finding the cure as quickly as possible. Now that's beyond my belief, because I know for a fact any pharmaceutical company, if they're going to push any drugs, it takes up to about 10 years before they can actually certify that particular drug is safe to be used. Now, obviously, people are in desperate times, and people are quite scared. There is an industry of fear, so I'm not too sure. I'm also kind of a bit lost with a lot of the factual information. So hopefully a bit later on we could actually touch on that. If you want to give us a call, if you're a doctor, if you're a GP, if you're from the medical profession, then all you got to do is give me a call, and I'll take your call. The number is 074 77080248. So I'd like to come back to the community. It's very important that we discuss about community matters, and all the people who are listening, thank you very much for listening to Middle Path Radio. Middle Path Radio is growing very fast online, so please do share. Also follow our Twitter, and also if you're on social networks, spread it around so that people are actually getting the message. The management is claiming it is the best Islamic radio station online. Obviously, I'm a very critical person, and I need you to tell me that. If you think that is the case, then fantastic. If not, then I'm going to do my best to provide a quality program as best as possible. You're probably aware we did some experiments before. We were in a bunker. Now we've actually upgraded ourselves, and also we've got some fantastic news. We'll be in somewhere very, very nice, and I know a lot of people are interested in this particular format because people across the globe are able to connect online. I know when I'm actually on Facebook, I've got people from Canada, Middle East, Far Asia, people from Africa who are actually my friends, and we're able to communicate and share a lot of information. So for the people who are out there who are on social media, it's an opportunity for you to get involved. We are based in East London. Yes, in the heart of the British Bangladeshi community, Tower Hamlets. And on that particular note, the borough is doing very well, from Southern perspective. And that's why I want to introduce my special guest in the studio. We're very, very lucky to have our Deputy Mayor, Abjol Rahman. He's here in the studio today, and hopefully he'll give us some insight to the borough and the changes that have been taking place in the borough, and also the challenges that the borough is actually bringing. Obviously, Abjol Rahman, he's the Deputy Mayor for Tower Hamlets, and you probably were aware, we've also got an Executive Mayor for the borough, and we've got almost all the political parties here as well, and there's a various different coalition groups of people as well. And Tower Hamlet is very, very active when it comes to lobbying. All you have to do is actually go on Tower Hamlet Council webcam, and you will see some of our dynamic, explosive full council meetings. I think I won't say it's like a football match, but I will say it's very entertaining as well. I mean, we have the Tories sitting on one side, we've got Labour on the other side, and we've got a mixture of political perspectives in that. And then we've also got the independent Tower Hamlet First, managing the administration, and we have a mayor who's the executive mayor of Tower Hamlet. So first of all, welcome, Councillor, Deputy Mayor Abjol Rahman.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum to you and your listeners, and thank you for inviting me to your program today.
Well, thank you for actually under such short notice for you to actually come down. Obviously, you're probably more experienced going into a kind of a radio station that looks like a radio station. You probably weren't aware that this kind of radio station existed in the heart of East London.
Well, I've come across few in my time, and I can tell to your listeners that I've been actually to worse venue than the one I'm currently sitting in.
Wow.
So I know there is a number of radio station does exist in the borough and elsewhere where people do struggle to some way to come out and make into mainstream, but obviously some of the smaller radio stations do discuss some of the very important local and national and international issues. So I am pleased to be here, but it does look like a radio station. It might not be your BBC or LBC's radio station, but I think nevertheless,
I think in all fairness, Deputy Mayor, people are actually moving away from the mainstream. If you look at the popularity of internet radios in America, humongous volumes of people actually online, and they're actually listening to alternative news, alternative perspectives and that, yeah. And I think one of the things Middle Path Radio wants to do is actually tap into that market. There's a big market out there. I mean, if you look at students, for example, when they're studying online, you know, they want to listen to something, they want to, you know, have something in the background, and we're looking forward to actually fulfilling their, you know, their kind of like needs as well. And what we need to do is like kind of like build on those. And very difficult getting license. You know, if you look at the mainstream kind of radio stations and that, yeah, it'd be very difficult for the community to actually kind of like get those licenses and also manage that license because of the cost. So, you know, fantastic. You've been here, you know, and we know the types of listeners are listening. We know where they're listening from, and they're listening across the globe as well. So they're not just in the UK. They're also in various different other countries as well. And we are also going to be tapping into Bangladesh as well. So there's going to be a lot of listeners in Bangladesh who are going to be, especially a lot of students as well. Yeah. So we're kind of tapping into that. Ollie, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Okay. How'd you get into politics, and you know, your journey in your political life?
Obviously, I got involved into politics through anti-war movement. My background is actually in trade union. I'm an active member in the Office of Public Commercial Services Union, which is a civil service union. But I got involved in politics through anti-war movement. And like yourself, I was very active during the Iraq War and with the Stop the War Coalition. And that's how I got involved into politics. Back in 2004, when I was only 23, I'll probably be giving my age away to your listeners now. But I stood for GLA, and then against John Biggs, who recently stood against Mayor Lutfur Rahman in Tower Hamlets. And subsequently, a couple months later, there was a council by-election in Stepney Green, St Dunstan's and Stepney Green ward. And I got elected as a councillor.
At that time, you're probably the youngest councillor.
Yes, I was the youngest councillor in Tower Hamlets, and I was one of the youngest in London.
Fantastic. See, it's only in Tower Hamlets that you can produce those kind of results. So I remember that election result. It was electrifying to have a young representative from the community who actually win a by-election. I still remember that as well. Well, you know, congratulations for that, and it all started from there. Yes,
and obviously I was the first Respect councillor in the country. The party was founded by George Galloway, MP, who's now MP in Bradford West, I think. Yes, Bradford West. And subsequently, I got re-elected. I supported Mayor Lutfur Rahman when injustice happened to him against when the Labour Party members selected him as a mayoral candidate, but the leadership decided to dismiss that result without any investigation or any logistic, and I supported him along with other colleagues. And obviously I've been with Mayor Lutfur Rahman ever since, and I have served as a cabinet member for employment, cabinet member for children, schools and families. And now, obviously, this year, Mayor Rahman has promoted me to deputy mayor, but also I'm responsible for economic development, which include businesses, employment, jobs, skills, lifelong learnings, volunteers. So all of those kind of stuff that falls under my portfolio. And this is my fourth term as a local councillor, and I am very grateful to people of St Dunstan and Stepney Green for electing me for 3 terms as their councillor, and now my newly formed ward called Stepney Green, and I'm extremely grateful to people of Stepney Green for supporting me and electing me once again to be their representative along with my colleague Councillor Ali Chowdhury.
Thank you, Oli Rahman. Your listeners, you're listening to Middle Path Radio online, and if you want to contact us, if you want to speak to us, if you want to raise any points or any issues or concerns, you can call this number 07477 080248. Let me repeat that again for you, 07477 080248. That's our hot number. Please give us a call. You can directly speak to our Deputy Mayor here in Tower Hamlets. Fantastic. You've got a very, very good range of experience, and also your portfolio is very, very good. I'm going to pick on some of your portfolio areas so that we can also inform and educate our listeners out there. One of the questions I wanted to raise with you, Ollie, was what was your take on the sudden switch from a cabinet system to an executive mayor? What was your position, and did you support the mayor at that time?
I supported the executive system, and I still do, because when we had the leader system in Tower Hamlets, my experience was that if I wanted to be the leader and get support of people, I had to just offer them positions, either in the cabinet or in some form of committees with some sort of allowances attached to, and people will naturally support me. Now, that didn't seem like a very democratic process, and the leader wasn't accountable to the public directly. He or she would be accountable to the councillors who elected them as the leader, and it will be done on a yearly basis. However, I think as an elected representative, individuals should be directly accountable to the people who elects them, people they serve, and the people who elects them should have the right to challenge them if they are not doing their jobs properly. So therefore, I supported the system. Remember, the system was established by the Labour Party itself. Mayor Rahman is not the only directly...
It's very, very strange. Yeah. Labour Party introduced it, but then they opposed it.
Yes, they opposed it locally because obviously it served their purpose and their own interest. But like I said, Mayor Rahman is not the only directly elected mayor. We have a number of other mayors, and he's not the only independent mayor. But obviously,
there's about 3 other independent mayors.
There is 3 others. So I think in total throughout the country there is about 12 directly executive elected mayors, and those individuals puts themselves forward to the voters of their prospective area and respective area.
Just explain to our listeners who are probably national and international, an executive mayoral system gives power to one person who's named as the mayor. Previously we had a cabinet system, so the political parties will prefer a cabinet system, but many of those mainstream parties argue the case that, look, democracy is when local people vote for the local councillors, and the local councillors then form the cabinet, and you will have greater democracy. But with the mayoral system, is that yes, the voters have the right to vote for the mayor. Every 4 years they get to vote the mayor out if they disagree or if they don't like the policy. But surely the cabinet system was a better system because you had elected representatives taking on that decision. What's the difference and what's the benefit?
We still have a cabinet system. We still have cabinet members appointed for their respective portfolios, and although mayor has the overall decision and overall right to make the decision, but I have been with him since 2010, 2008, and ever since, every decision that he has taken in consultation with his cabinet and with his colleague, taking their views and their concern on board. Because obviously, although the mayor is the executive mayor and he has the authority to make those decisions, and unless he delegates his decision-making authority to individual councillors or cabinet members, they cannot directly make that decision. But I have never seen, when it comes to issues affecting the local residents, i.e. that may be developments taking place, building schools, closing service or anything like that, nothing will get done without the consultation and discussion with the cabinet. So that the cabinet still has a say, it still has an influence on the decision making when mayor makes the decision. But ultimately, the voters can hold at least one person accountable if something has gone wrong or if they're not getting the service they deserve.
And that's because the Local Government Act 2000 allows people to have that kind of option.
Of course. And I think I'll tell you what also I'm personally a favour of, and that is only my personal view, is that there was a debate some months ago in the Parliament where if MP is not performing, then public should be allowed to call on the MP if they get a certain percentage
That's
of
right,
the
yeah.
constituents to
Yeah.
sign a petition.
I think 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000.
10,000.
And I'm in favour for similar things for the councillors. And mayors.
Wow, that's a controversial one. I'm sure most of our councillors will be up in arms with this.
The thing is, because I genuinely believe that if you are performing well, because I always believe, and I sincerely believe this, that every person put themselves forward to be elected. They put themselves forward because they want to serve the interest of the community. They want to serve the local community to best their ability. And if they are not performing, if they are not serving, then of course there is a concern, and people should be able to hold those individual account to it. Because although, yes, like you described in your introduction, the council chamber can be very active, very robust, because we enjoy debates, and we passionately make our argument very
Could be a
clear.
drama theatre as well.
It could be. It
You
could
know,
be.
I mean, there are some characters in there who
of course.
are very good at
I
acting.
and I think precisely this is why that I say this, is that because I see councillors, they are more interested is picking on what you and I doing, or what the mayor is doing, and how they can defeat the mayor, rather than actually serving the people that they got elected by, and the reason they stood in the first place. So I think a lot of the people, they forget, once they get elected, they forget why they actually got elected. If my constituents calls me 12 o'clock at night, I'm obliged. Not many people will answer it, but I have left my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to police station to help somebody because somebody got arrested or somebody got into difficulties. So that's the way I see myself. And I believe that most of the councillors, because they genuine and they sincerely believe in their job they do, they will certainly would do that. And I think this is why it's important that residents should be able to hold their elected representative into account if something goes wrong.
Okay, we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Let's talk about some of your portfolios. Yeah, so at the moment, you've covered a children's service as well. You've done children's service.
Yes, I've done that for the last 4 years.
Employment, you've done as well.
Yes.
Okay, and currently you're dealing with economic development and local businesses and that. Yeah, East London, wherever we go. Yeah, businesses talk about business rates. How can we help our businesses?
Business rate obviously is set by the government. It's a legal requirement. And recently I was actually...
Well, the Tory government was thinking, I don't know if they were thinking of localising it. Now, if they are thinking of localising it, would you go for it?
Well, we will have to look at it. How we... Obviously, if we give rebate, people who's entitled to discount as a small businesses, they already get that if they are entitled to it.
Do you know, Deputy Mayor, I think they will not agree to actually localise it. I'll tell you why. Because Tower Hamlet will be the richest borough in the whole of Europe. And do you know why?
Because
we've got Canary Wharf.
Yes.
So can you imagine the business rate that comes from here that's supplying mid-region? Yeah. So therefore, it's going to be very. And I've looked at this argument, and it's very good for Tower Hamlets, very good for Tower Hamlets. But I can't see central government actually allowing that because with all the controversy, we're going to talk a little bit about the controversy with Mayor Little Rahman. Yeah. But with all the controversy that's happening in Tower Hamlets, I personally can't see that they will actually undertake that pathway, because that will mean that when it comes to local ownership, local authority will manage the business rate, and that means Tower Hamlet will be the richest.
You're probably right. And I recently I had a group of business men and women come to see me because they precisely the question that you raised, that they want us to give them additional business rate or business rate for manufacturing.
So easy, because if business rates were localized, then the mayor would be able to consider reducing local community business rate to even a very small percent, even maybe to a 1%, yeah, and really kind of like bump the percentage up for other businesses. So he could actually apply a certain judgment, unless there is regulation that actually controls
I'm
that.
sure, obviously, if and when that were to be localized, we will take into consideration. But I'm sure there will be some sort of regulation in place to make sure that businesses are treated fairly and equally, just like it is currently now. And I think this is why it's important that we try to support our businesses, and we're looking at all sorts of initiative at the moment, including trying to set up some sort of funding for people who want to set up businesses, people who want to get into businesses, young people, entrepreneurs. And because we have a lot of talent. And I tell you what, Abjol Bai, we had a group of delegation from France government who wanted to come and see how our Tower Hamlets works. And they took a drive through Whitechapel Road. And they said, do you know what, your people is very rich. And the reason they explained that, because they said that we drove from one end to the next end of the long road, and we haven't seen a single shop which is with the shutter down. Every single shop is open and business is ongoing. But they goes, if you come to France, we can take to some of the street after street where you'll see the businesses shut because people are not opening those businesses. There's not that much interest. And the reason I say this, because as soon as there's a property goes out on the market, commercial properties, you can pretty much guarantee you'll get hundreds of applications. People want a chunk of that shop so that they can invest and open some sort of different type of businesses. And we know sometimes people say there's different, all sorts of businesses that competition, but which is very good for the consumers. So this is why it's equally important.
All my listeners, thank you very much. And you're listening to Middle Path Radio. Please, if you want to get involved, if you want to raise any questions, give us a call. The number is 07477 080248. Ollie, employment. Okay, that's another factor here, especially for our young people in Tower Hamlets. So during your period here, what kind of support structures were you able to put in place to encourage employment for young people?
Well, the thing is, employment still is under my portfolio, although just a title has slightly changed. To more fancy words. But obviously, employment is a very important aspect of it. And the Mayor Rahman has pledged before the election that by end of his term, he wants to get 20,000 people into employment. That's residents of Tower Hamlets. 7,000 people into trainings. I think about 4,000 people into apprenticeships. So obviously, there's a huge targets that to be met, and I have a huge responsibility.
Okay.
We have our in-house employment section called Skills Match, which is the council-run service. And I know a lot of people have raised concern, and I'm taking those concerns on board and addressing them. But what I've also said to people, if they are looking for jobs, they should forward their CV to me directly, and I will forward it to Skills Match so I can monitor it as to what progress the section is making in terms of helping those individuals.
Okay, Middle Path Radio listeners, you've heard that. Yeah, if you're in East London, and specifically if you're in Tower Hamlets, yeah, or if you know someone who lives in Tower Hamlets and is looking for employment, you know what to do. The CV's got to actually get into the email of our Deputy Mayor in Tower Hamlets. He's personally taken that on board to make sure that he can trace it and follow it through. I'm going to actually really bring a controversial topic here. I'm going to give our Deputy Mayor to actually time to think over it as well. Mayor Rahman, from one perspective, is doing a lot of positive work. You know, his manifesto for this period is, some people say, is really, really challenging, but really beneficial as well. Do you think with the positive policies that the mayor's bringing in, a lot of people from outside the borough would like to benefit from the benefits that are going to be provided for local Tower Hamlet residents? Do you think that will cause animosity between communities and people who live in the borough? Because a lot of people want to now be able to come in to Tower Hamlets, get the opportunities, because the opportunities are very good. To give you one example, a lot of people who live outside the borough realise the social services, care work for elderly people is very good in the borough, and they would want their families to come to Tower Hamlet to live so that they can get that service, because in other boroughs, name you some, Redbridge and other boroughs, it's very difficult to get support for elderly people. So you've got one aspect. You've also got housing. Mayor Lutfur Rahman has actually announced 4,000 new homes. Okay, Tower Hamlet is actually building more homes than any other London boroughs. So there are a lot of other people who are desperately need homes across London. Obviously, they just have to wait 3 years in Tower Hamlet before they become eligible to actually get a council property or be on the register. What do you think? Do you think this is going to cause problem for the current residents who feel they've been waiting for a long time? Now that the services have been improved because of a political change, a lot of people seeing a lot of benefits in Tower Hamlets. Do you think that's going to create animosity between those who've been here for a while and the new people who are coming in to settle into the borough?
Well, I think the way I see it, as an elected representative of Tower Hamlets, my duty first and foremost is to people of Tower Hamlets and to serve the interest of people of Tower Hamlets. Then, obviously, if there is additional resources and if people wanted to come to our borough, we would always welcome people to our borough, because we believe our borough is vibrant, is making significant progress. And I think, I like to describe that Tower Hamlets is, although it may be one of the poorest borough in the country, it has a deprivation, you have child poverty, but taking into all this into consideration, we're doing extremely well. Unlike some of our neighbouring closed yet any of our frontline services, we haven't done to our employees, and we're still progressing. And some of the things, like, for example, education and maintenance allowance, we're the only borough in the country that provides that. The university bursary of £1,500, people who's going to university for first time. We're again only borough in the country. We're doing that. We also recently introduced free school meals for all the primary school children in the borough. Our youth centres are not closing. In fact, we're opening. Our libraries are not closing.
Deputy Mayor, you're actually spending about £10 million on the youth service, which is a very good amount, because obviously with a very high youth population, other boroughs are probably closer to 3.5. Yes. Some are 2 million. So there's a lot of positive investment, a lot of positive policies that are really having an impact. And a lot of people will actually acknowledge that. But however, obviously people have the right to move. People can move from one place to another place.
Of course, and we would, like I said, we would welcome people to come to Tower Hamlets, but I think we have to take into consideration the residents who's already been here in Tower Hamlets and housing.
But surely a resident, once they've lived in the borough for 3 years, Tower Hamlet residents, according to the housing policy, they can get a right to actually apply.
They can be on the housing waiting list.
And obviously, you're aware, a lot of residents are also raising the issue around not enough primary schools. What kind of plans do you think the mayor has in order to manage the population that we have? Because you got to also remember, during the Olympics, we had over kind of an estimated of about 500 big business companies coming into the borough in order to benefit from the Olympics. So a lot of these big companies are very aware of where the financial opportunities are, where the benefits are. So they would want to base in Tower Hamlets and then benefit from the strategic funds in that. Yeah. Do you see that as a problem in this borough? Because obviously Mayor's doing a lot of good things. He's doing things that other boroughs are not doing.
It's not a problem, and I think this is why we had to put some of the restriction in place. Not only 3 years, but also from top of my head, if you got household income, or if one or the couple is earning, I'm not sure about if it's household or the individual, earning more than £75,000 a year, you can't be on the housing waiting list. So the reason we had to bring some of those policy in place is to support more vulnerable people who are on low income, people who are depending on state benefit. Some of those people, because they need more support than somebody who's earning significant amount of salary per year, because they would be able to afford probably rent privately than some of the people in our communities who's not going to be able to rent privately.
But Deputy Mayor, there is a big trend now growing. The people who are actually renting in the private sector are being forced by the landlords to actually, or being issued notices to actually leave their property due to the impact of austerity and the government putting in legislation and capping the benefit system. So therefore, people who are on £500 cap are not able to pay the full rents to the private sector, and therefore it's not lucrative business for many of the letting agencies in order to actually make profit out of that. So therefore there are a lot of Bangladeshi families now who are actually being seen more and more by councillors. I'm sure you're seeing them as well, that they're being given eviction notices to actually leave their property. Surely the numbers in thousands who are actually getting that, they will have an immense impact on the housing waiting list.
It is going to have an effect on the housing waiting list, and I think this is why Mayor Rahman has set aside a...
But on the housing criteria, if they're coming from private sector letting, they don't have as much priority as those who are on the council waiting list. So therefore, there are a lot of people who've got hope and aspiration that the mayor's going to provide them with a house.
Yeah, but either way, we haven't turned anybody away who came to us for help. We always worked with them to find some sort of suitable accommodation, because obviously there may be families with very young children, families with disabled children, family with health condition. So there's a number of other aspects or issues they may have which may affect them, and this is why we haven't turned anybody away, and we will try to work with those individuals, even if we can't help them directly, but we will work with them to find an alternative suitable accommodation. And one thing I want to say when it comes to private landlord, not only just the rent, but when it comes to repairs and certain other aspect of properties lettings, and this is why the cabinet have recently passed something called private landlord scheme, which every private landlord will have to sign if they want to be part of, if they want to rent their properties in Tower Hamlets. So make sure that when people are renting those properties, is to a decent standard, because I know for myself when I do home visits and I visit a few private properties, and like I said at the meeting, that I wouldn't even allow an animal to live in there, let alone human being. And some of those private landlords do treat those individuals in a very poor manner, and that's something has to stop, because they are human and they deserve to live in a suitable, decent accommodation, especially when they're paying such a high rent. Fantastic.
With all these good policies and that, why still we have pressure on the mayor, and especially in the last election, people are not happy and content with the results. Obviously, now the council was actually going through audits and all the other investigations and that, and especially on intimidation during the election time. So, what's your take on that?
On the election, obviously, I'm not going to say much, because obviously there's an ongoing legal case at the moment. So obviously I have to be very careful what I say. But obviously the petitioners have presented their argument to the case. They have to provide their evidence to the judge, and we will then put our argument across, and on that basis the judge will make a decision.
How confident are you? Because obviously this particular case is actually really, really kind of like...
I am very confident that they would not find anything wrong, because as far as I'm concerned, that we haven't done anything wrong. There was one thing that a lot of people may not know, that during the election day, in every single polling station, there is police officer present. They are not bought by Mayor Lutfur Rahman or my group. They was provided by the Metropolitan Police, and if there was any incident, if there was any concern, those officers would have taken a note and would have reported. Far as we are aware, as of yet, the police officers have not said there has been any foul play in the election, nor has any wrong kind of people who went into...
Deputy Mayor, yeah, do you think residents of Tower Hamlets can be forced to vote for someone?
Absolutely not. Because everybody have their rights, and I think this is one thing I think some people have to understand. The people of Tower Hamlets are not stupid, nor are they naive. They are very intelligent people. They can make firm decision, and they can make a decision for themselves. And I think it is very rude in some ways and disrespect to people of Tower Hamlets when individual says that, individual will only vote for certain person.
Well, one of the accusations was that a group of people were actually speaking Bangla to some of the voters. Do you think that is a crime in itself? Is there any
Well, the thing is-
legislation that says
Well,
that
the
you
thing
can't
is,
speak Bangla to someone?
I'm the way I describe myself. First of all, I'm a Muslim. Yeah, I'm a trade unionist. I come from Bangladeshi origin. That's my mother tongue. Thousands of people given their lives so that I can speak that language, and I'm not afraid to speak that language. And there is people who comes to polling station or my surgery or anywhere that they don't speak English as their first language, and they prefer to speak in their own language. And if somebody is explaining to them in their own language, because if you want them to take in part in democratic process, you cannot say that if they don't speak English, they cannot take part of in democratic process. So you cannot. But if those people were to then vote for another candidate, that would be okay. There wouldn't be a problem. But because they happen to vote for Mayor Rahman, and all of them probably didn't vote for Mayor Rahman, probably did vote for the other candidates. But if they voted for Mayor Rahman, then it's a problem. And it wasn't only us who's talking in Bengali. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no legislation in Parliament to suggest...
No, it's a free country still.
Suggest that we cannot respect. But then it's okay when people come from France, or, if you go to France, the people... these people
Now, Deputy Mayor, I mean,
French.
most of
They don't
Tower
speak in
Hamlet
English.
residents realise that some of these petty kind of like accusation that's been made against the administration. I mean, I would have been quite happy if many of those accusations were policy driven. Because we can be critical. We can be critical, and we have to also be critical with the mayor as well. And there are areas where the council can improve on. We're not saying that the council is 100% able to deliver and satisfy everybody. But the issue is there's nothing wrong with being critical. But the problem is when people actually too much political mud throwing, and not given the opportunity. So I think most people in Tower Hamlet, and it's reassuring as a deputy that you're saying that you're very, very confident that the outcome of the trial will actually favour. So we look forward to that particular results. We would like to take a break because I'm sure that you probably need a sip of water now as well, and you probably got used to the studio. My program managers indicated that we need to go for a break because we've got another guest who's trying to get through online. We're going to be talking a little bit about controversial issue about diseases and how it affects us as a Muslim community. Yeah, will we bar someone coming into the masjid? Do the mosque committee have the right to say to an individual, "Sorry, you can't come to this masjid because you got this virus or whatever"? Yeah. What are some of the reasons from an Islamic perspective that can happen or not happen? We've got Ebola that is actually kind of like spreading fast, according to one perspective. From another critical perspective, people are saying that it's actually been hypened up so much that in order for pharmaceutical companies to be able to sell and profit from the medicine that's going to be actually curing the people. Wherever that case is, you need to make that investigation. I'm sure critical people out there will research themselves and come to their own conclusion. On that particular note, our Deputy Mayor is going to stay with us, and we're going to take a quick break, and after the break we'll come back with Community Matters. Welcome back to Middle Path Radio listeners. This is Abjol Bai speaking, and I'm your host today, and my shows are going to be every Saturday from 9 o'clock to I don't know what time, however you feel. I'll continue, but obviously I can't do more than 1.5 hours. I think that'll be a marathon for me. But I will be bringing various different topics. I'll be also bringing guests into my studios. I'll be introducing them, and you will get to know about their opinions. Also, you can challenge them with their opinions as well. And what we do want is people to kind of like spread the message and get the message out there. middlepathradio.com. Yeah, that's what you're listening to now. If you want to give us a call, and if you're in the UK, especially if you're in East London, and more importantly, if you're in Tower Hamlets, you can actually call us. And yes, we are speaking a little bit about our local authority here, because we have Deputy Mayor Oli Rahman here with me in the studio. We've discussed about some of his portfolios, some of the challenges, some of the difficulties, and also the positives that exist in the community. And there are some areas that I'm going to get him to touch on very soon as well. So please give us a call, 07477 080248. If you just want to be partially listening, continue. You can also text us on this number, and we'll be able to read your text messages out as well. Let's come back to our Deputy Mayor. There are some other areas we were discussing during our break, especially the benefit of improving education through mother tongue as well. And obviously, there was issue during the last election that people complained that people, the British Bangladeshi community activists were actually speaking in Bangla to voters when they were coming to the polling stations. How important is the Bangladeshi community?
Well, it's very important. Like I said earlier on, that many thousands of people gave their lives for us to be able to speak Bangla and mother tongue languages, that is called. But not only that, the statistics shows, and there's a proven statistics that actually shows that people who speaks their mother tongue language intends to do far better in educations than if somebody were to just speak English itself. And I think it's shown in entire hamlets. If you look at our schools are growing from strength to strength, the result is improving year on year. All our schools is either good or outstanding.
Well, I think we're top 7, isn't it?
Yeah, top 7 schools. Our schools get mentioned even by the conservative ministers. So obviously we are doing fantastically good, and I think Benguli's skills that people can use, and we have seen, and I think nowadays I see a lot in Facebook. People writing in Bengali.
Well, I kind of struggle with that. I get a lot of people writing in Bangla, and I keep on saying to them, "Well,
the thing is,
I'm from that generation."
I said on my Facebook status that I can't read. Although I did get B in my GCSE, because I didn't practice for many years, so I forgot how to read and write properly. But I can speak Shuddha Bangla as well.
Fantastic.
So not many people can speak Shuddha Bangla. So I feel it's an advantage to me. And obviously, if I did practice, that I would. But the other thing I wanted to mention is also you talked about elderly people wanting to come into the borough, and that might be one of the reasons, because we have the free home care.
Our elderly people don't want to live tower hamlets. Yeah, they don't want to leave. It's so difficult. There are young families who want to take their elderly people outside to their new houses. But their parents don't want to go. No, exactly. They're struggling.
And because we have a free home care, and we're the only borough in the country that we provide. And I think the question that you asked, we do so much good stuff. Why is the mayor still such a controversial figure to many in this country? And let me be very blunt and honest in here. Is that for some people, it's extremely difficult to accept a black man in such a powerful position, handling budget of £1.2 billion.
Well, you know what? Let's put some more chili powder on that one, yeah? Because he's the first black mayor in Europe. He's the first Muslim mayor in Europe, okay? He's also the first Bangladeshi mayor in Europe. Yeah?
Absolutely. Okay? And I think a lot of people find it extremely difficult to accept that. But as far as I'm concerned, he has been through the democratic process. He has been elected fair and transparently in a democratic process. We may not like individual, but we have to respect the democratic process if we believe in democratic process. And I believe the people of this borough have made their decision.
Well, Deputy Mayor, you're probably aware it's very difficult to please everyone in politics.
Absolutely,
politics isn't about pleasing everybody.
I think it's law of the attacks that do come are more politically motivated than anything else.
Okay, I want to bring you back to a very important issue that's very important to me. I'm sure it's important to you, and I'm sure it's important to most of our Middle Path Radio listeners out there. The crisis of Palestine. Recently, last week, we had Parliament vote in recognising the Palestinian state. Do you think it was a necessary vote to come into Parliament? Do you think the members of Parliament actually done a good service in recognising Palestine? Does the vote in Parliament actually have any legal boundings? I mean, from my perspective, I don't think the government is obliged to actually do anything with that particular vote cast. And why was it that the half of Parliament was empty?
Obviously, the government don't have to comply with the votes that took place in Parliament, and I already know that they're not going to comply, because when a former minister...
So do you think? Sorry to cut you in. Do you think it was just a convenient ploy for the next general election?
Well, I think yes. I think the election has something to do with, but there may be. if you look at from the, some of the MPs abstain or didn't vote for the motion because they don't recognize the state of Israel, and they said, long as you recognize that, we're not going to support it. But then some MPs will argue that if you recognize one state, then you have to recognize the other.
So what was the bill? What was the bill that the members of parliament voting on?
It was a more of a symbolic one, just like many other countries. I think another 135 countries in the world that recognize the state of Palestine. And I think it will do some benefit to the Palestinian as an authority. Might give them a little bit boost to make their case a little bit stronger, but really and truly, it's just written on paper that it's not worth written.
Okay, let me give you my take on that as a presenter. I think it was has an element of a political deploy in here, because if you look at the Labour Party, they have some very significant members of parliament who are in Muslim areas, and obviously the Palestinian issue is very important, and that's why I think Ed Miliband allowed the withdrawal of the whip, which means basically members of parliament can actually have a free range of votes. They can either attend, abstain, and vote whichever way they want. And in all fairness, people the votes came from cross-party as well. So I mean, from the Tories, Liberals, and even the Labour Party. There were Zionist votes as well as pro-Palestinian votes. But the problem is it hasn't resolved anything, or it doesn't look like any resolvements will take place, because they've just refused the Palestinian people in West Bank in Jerusalem to entry into the Masjid al-Aqsa, okay? And they've actually stormed the mosque as well. Already a Palestinian boy has been killed again. So it looks like the Palestinian problem is there for a long time. These symbolic gestures, are they just gestures, or are they just buying time?
I think it just, like you said, general election has something to do with, and that is one of the point why this vote has come now, because number of Labour parliamentarian, even Conservative parliamentarian in their own constituencies have large number of Muslim population, and they will use that to spin their argument to say that they support Palestinian, they support Palestinian state, and this is the reason that they have recognized. Now, Mr. Joe Bloke on the street may or may not know that really and truly that votes mean nothing to the ordinary people of Palestinian, and Israel is not going to listen, nor they're going to do anything with regards to that vote. Just like you said that they're not going to allow people to go to Al-Aqsa. But the important aspect of it is that I think the Western government, and I listened to the debate very carefully, and some of the people seems to be very passionate about when they was talking about Palestine. But then they should call on Israel to withdraw from occupied land and hand over the land. It's not their land in the first place. This land belonged to Palestinian, and they should allow the Palestinian to take back those land and build their. But surprisingly, Abjol Bai, loads of MPs spoke so passionately, and you would think that they was lifelong supporter and fighter for the people of Palestine. But when the Palestinian was dying in the hundreds and thousands during the summer, when the war that took place, not a single member of parliament actually spoke so passionately then, nor did they stand up and argue in support of Palestinian, apart from one or two member of MPs. So it obviously shows that this is just a symbolic, this is buying time, and this is securing their own seat and their own career, rather than genuinely serving the interest of people of Palestine.
Okay, just for all my Middle Path Radio listeners out there, if you do want to find out more about what's happening in the Middle East, there's a very, very good webpage, and that webpage is called Middle East Monitor. So if you go to middleeastmonitor.com, you'll get a lot of updates. They're very, very good in their analysis. They're able to provide a lot of source of information. So if you ever want to find out more about what is happening in the Middle East, and also the crisis that's taking place place in Syria as well. I mean, Middle East Monitor is very, very good. So write that down. So that will be very good for you to actually go and check a lot of the materials on there. MiddleEastMonitor.com, MiddleEastMonitor.com, www.middleeastmonitor.com. And that will give you a lot of information, and they're very, very good. They update every couple of hours. A lot of good journalists are on there as well. They bring information, news from across the region, and it's very important. People need to be informed. They need to know the other side of the argument as well. On the Palestinian issue, I'm really, really glad that many of our elders have informed us within the Bangladeshi community that, Bangladesh doesn't recognize Israel. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised myself. I didn't know that. But if you go Bangladeshi passport at home, and if you look on your Bangladeshi passport, it will say all countries except Israel. So that means that you cannot travel with the Bangladeshi passport to Israel because the Bangladesh doesn't recognize.
Well, very simplistically, Bangladesh has borders.
Yes.
Yes, it's got borders, yeah. Are you aware that Israel's borders are disputed still?
Yes.
Yeah, so therefore, is it possible for people to recognize Israel?
Well, no, because obviously if there is a dispute going on, then obviously no decision has been made. And
we can support the towns and cities,
until
your border lines...
And until a decision is made. And this is why I think in the parliament, George Galloway, who actually I see as my political mentor, and who has lifelong scar of fighting for people.
Well, he's actually supported the Palestinian cause over 33 or 34 years.
So he actually has a scar to prove it that he has been fighting for people of Palestine. He actually abstained from this vote.
Yeah, a lot of people found that quite strange.
Yes,
how did Mr. Galloway?
And obviously,
abstain?
reason he abstained because he thought that this motion really didn't do anything for ordinary people of Palestine. And secondly, the motion was also recognizing the state of Israel, and he clearly doesn't recognize a state of Israel, and that's one of the fundamental reason why he decided to abstain from this particular motion rather than vote for it.
Well, there was a good information that came in during the Gaza PM to the Palestinian people, especially people of Gaza. Yeah, so that's really reassuring, especially from the third generation of British Bangladeshis, that the Bangladesh government has actually taken some initiative to support the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. We hope that the Bangladesh government continues to do that and provide that support, because Bangladesh also had its own experiences and understands that sometimes it's very important that people have their own autonomy, people have their own state, and I think the Palestinian people have the right to do so. Yeah. So on that particular one, we will actually move on from that. And what we want to do, Deputy Mayor, is give you 2 minutes to actually, if you have any final word or comments you want to make. I've taken you from local issue to international issue. We're going to hold it on the Palestinian one, and then give you the chance to actually say your last words before we move on.
Obviously, thank you for inviting me, and I think the work we are doing will continue to do the same level work, if not better. And I genuinely believe that I genuinely believe the people of Tower Hamlets voted for us or re-elected us because we have done good work in last 4 years, and by electing us, they're endorsing the work that we have done in last 4 years, and they endorsing our commitment for the next 4 years, the work we're going to do. And we made the commitment, and I know Mayor Rahman, one thing for sure, that he is absolutely keen to keep to his promise to people of Tower Hamlets. And when he said about the homes, it's actually 5,000 homes, not 4,000. And I have
4,000 was the last.
Yeah,
yep.
And I have seen for myself where the officer saying that we haven't reached our target, we're below this, and he said, no, we have to meet our targets. I have to meet the targets that I have committed to the people. And I think we will continue to, no matter what happens to us, no matter how much pressure he comes to us, long as we believe the people of Tower Hamlets are with us, and we will continue to work for people of Tower Hamlets, because that's what we've been elected to do, and we will sincerely do our best. But we are human beings. Of course, we will make mistake, and when we make mistake, we ask people to give us the opportunity to rectify, and also to people to give us their ideas and suggestions as to what we can do to support. But one thing I will say to your listeners, whether in London or in Tower Hamlets or East London, when they are electing their people, they should be electing people who they sincerely believe that can serve their interest and their communities, rather than people just getting elected for the sake of position and power.
Well, fantastic. Deputy Mayor Oli Rahman for Tower Hamlet, serving with the Executive Mayor, Mayor Lutfur Rahman for Tower Hamlet Borough. So those of our Middle Path listeners who have been listening locally and internationally, you got a bit of a glimpse of the local politics in Tower Hamlets in East London. Hopefully you'll be getting a lot of information, and also, the beautiful, multiculturalism that we have in East London here as well. And one of the things I wanted to raise up is that multiculturalism is still live and kicking. And we have many of our members of parliament, our previous member of parliament, Una King, she could also speak Bangla. Jim Fitzpatrick can also speak Bangla. I've heard him make some very, very good speeches in Bangla as well. And he can also speak in the Sylheti dialect as well. So there's a lot of people who benefit and value the multiculturalism and the opportunity multiculturalism has given us through our language. The Bangla language is a fantastic language, and I think some of the controversies around the election fraud and so forth, and people speaking Bangla and not, I think is hopefully, the results from the legal battle will actually kind of clarify all that, and then people can get on with the political business. So in that respect, Deputy Mayor, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Middle Path Radio. Our request to you will be to encourage others to actually log on every different evening so that they can get involved with the shows and that. So I wish you all the best, and hopefully you will go and meet the challenges. And obviously the mayor's got a very, 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 very strong policy that he needs to deliver. And by the way, the people of this borough have the right to vote him out if he doesn't deliver.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. And thank you for all my listeners out there. We haven't finished yet. We're going to try our best to try and contact our next guest, who we're going to try and utilize for his Islamic knowledge. It's very important. We are an Islamic radio station online, and we want to get an Islamic perspective on managing illnesses and what are some of the issues and concerns. Do we have any issues? If you're a passive listener, you can just listen and benefit from the discussion. So my program manager is going to try his utmost best to actually contact our scholar who's actually driving, and he's going to be in his car while we speak to him. So no, he's actually been driven back by someone. So please give me a call. The number is 07477080248. That's the number. You can also text us on that number as well, and we'll be able to read that out for you. It's great having our Deputy Mayor here. I will be getting someone from the Labour Party, from Tower Hamlet Labour Party group. And also will do my best to get someone from the Conservative Party. I think when I get someone from the Conservative Party, I'm going to try my best to speak in Bangla, because it's very important that I also get a chance to practice my Bangla as well. And to all those British Bangladeshis out there, please don't be ashamed and embarrassed to speak in Bangla. It's a good language, and I always encourage people to try and learn 3 languages. English has got to be there. The English language has to be there. That goes with that say, yeah. And then we have to, try and learn the Arabic language, which is the language of the Quran. If you want to understand the Quran, you need to learn the Arabic language. I'm trying my best to learn the Arabic language as well. And if you want to do business and trade, maybe you can't do it now because what's happening in the Middle East, I think there's still countries out there that you can do trade, and the Arabic language is very good. And the last language, I would say, your mother tongue. Don't disrespect your mother tongue language. Bangla is our mother tongue language, and we're doing our best to practice it ourselves and teach our children as well. On that particular note, we need to move on. Have we got our caller ready? Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Brother
Abdullah Hassan, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
MashaAllah. Your line is very clear, and you told me that you'd be driving. There's no noise or anything. You're not driving, are you?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Is it very faint? We can hear you very loud.
I can hear you, but if you can raise the volume up, it would be better.
Okay, I'm going to ask my technician to actually do his best to raise the volume. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's quite faint.
Okay, it's quite faint. I'm going to ask my. We're going to try our best to communicate like that. I'm going to throw you a question. Just tell us a bit of a background of yourself and your formal education.
Okay, Bismillahir Rahim. My name is obviously Abdullah Hassan. I from London, East London, the Hamlets. I studied after school and college. I went to Islamic seminary to study Arabic and Islamic studies, and also went abroad to Jordan for some time to study Arabic and also Sharia. I also completed the Sharia degree from the European College of Islamic Studies in Wales. At the present moment, I am an imam in a mosque in Peterborough.
Okay, so you're imam at a mosque in Peterborough.
Yeah.
You're not a mufti.
Pardon?
You're not a mufti.
No, I'm imam.
Okay, imam. What's the difference between imam and a mufti?
A person who the mufti actually goes through further specialized training to answer questions, but part of the course that we went through had that in place already. So in terms of iftar and how to answer questions, everyone who has went through a Sharia degree will be able to understand that.
Fantastic. Okay, one of the reasons we've kind of invited you to come on Middle Path Radio, you're probably aware there is a crisis brewing in regards to Ebola. Okay, and we wanted to kind of look at how Islam manages diseases, poor health. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
It's very, very faint now.
Okay, is it? Can you hear me now? If you give me 2 seconds, we're gonna try and remedy this problem. Okay, and it's in operation now. Yeah, let's see if we can remedy this problem now. Okay,
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me loud and clear now? Yeah.
Yeah, now it's very clear.
Fantastic. See, okay. Now, what we want to actually ask you, is from an Islamic perspective, how we would manage like difficult diseases. Obviously, you're probably aware Ebola has actually hit the news very hard now.
Yeah. I mean, there is a precedent in the history of Islam where a plague broke out in the Middle East, in some of the Muslim countries, during the reign of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually prophesied this in one of the authentic hadith, and he said that this plague would actually kill, numerous numbers of people, and he said this is one of the signs of the day of judgment. And Umar bin Khattab, the way he dealt with it from an Islamic perspective, obviously, is that he did not allow people from Medina to go and travel in that particular city. So, in other words, he's quarantining the people over there. When he was questioned about, Umar bin Khattab, are you kafiru min qadarillah? Are you fleeing from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And he made a very, very profound statement. He said, we are fleeing from the qadr of Allah to qadr of Allah, because abstaining from going to that particular land where the plague has broken out, people are dying, and removing oneself from that and going to another place is actually going also to the qadr of Allah. So protecting ourselves from those kind of diseases is paramount. We have to do our utmost best to safeguard our families, safeguard ourselves from being contaminated. And if the disease, if those people have caught the disease, then if the doctors, if they deem that these people need to be quarantined in a hospital, and that's something also Islam will acknowledge.
Fantastic. That's very, very important because obviously there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people are worried because the disease is spreading so much. I mean, we've got over 4,500 people who've died from it now. Some health reports are saying that there are probably about 8,000 plus people are contaminated or affected by this virus. It's coming from West Africa. There are some other controversies, but before we go to the controversies, so from an Islamic perspective, and you've highlighted from Umar ibn al-Khattab's period, such diseases of a very dangerous element did afflict the Muslim Ummah, and therefore
if it's contagious, if it's airborne, it's contagious, and people would die from it, then it's very, very clear from an Islamic perspective that those people need to be quarantined and they need to be. And in fact, if you look at hospital, I mean, one of the first groups of people to develop the concept of hospital was the Muslims, and they actually separated people who had different diseases in different wards, and they quarantined a group of people who had certain kinds of diseases from other people, so they don't get contaminated. So it's actually from the history of Islam, nothing really wrong in that.
So let's say this: if this outbreak perceived to actually spread into other Muslim countries, so Muslim states can actually then kind of like bar people and stop them entry. Do you think that would then cause the fear that why people are stopping people from moving from one country to another?
I mean, theoretically, if there was such a crisis, pandemic or endemic, if you like, then theoretically, then a state can do that. And Umar al-Khattab, he was the state, he represented the state, he was the Khalifa, and he did actually do that. So there's nothing, in my opinion, wrong in that.
And that will apply to going to Hajj as well, yeah?
It could do, yeah, it could do. I mean, obviously the experts, doctors and medical experts, they need to also verify, ascertain severity of the problem. And the experts, if they deem fit, then they will consult their scholars, and the scholars will give the appropriate answers and guidance.
Okay, excellent. So that's with like very severe, very extreme kind of cases where, I mean, obviously there's one particular one that's on the news, but then we got other degrees of diseases that or infection that actually harm people, kill people. There are also social taboos around a lot of these diseases as well. Obviously, HIV does exist within the Muslim community, and then the relationship between Muslims with other fellow Muslims who may contracted HIV, who probably have AIDS, has an impact on their social structure. Demonizing them and isolating them in a social way, is that acceptable in Islam, or should you treat them as a human being and provide the best service for them?
I mean, first and foremost, we have to understand that any kinds of disease or calamity that we may encounter in this life is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any disease or calamities that an individual will face, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, and we're talking about in the Muslim context, we have to understand that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encounters upon those people these diseases to test them, to test their faith, test their iman of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya. So we are not allowed to demonize, we are not allowed to vilify, we're not allowed to disparage on account of them being ill, because it is not their fault. If they become ill, I become ill, it's not my fault, unless obviously I intentionally do something to myself to fall ill. Even then, we are not allowed to demonize, we're not allowed to vilify or disparage people, because they're victims, they're vulnerable. It's up to us to provide them assistance to the best of our ability. So categorically we can say that we're not allowed to demonize or people who are ill.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, let's go to a bit more softer diseases now, yeah? Let's say people got viruses, cold, flu, in that kind of situation, do you think mosque committees could put posters up saying, if you got a virus, please don't come to the Jamaat? Do you think there's an ethical boundary that people will be breaching if they were doing that?
I think in that situation, every individual, I certainly do not think, unless it's a big outbreak where people are actually falling very, very seriously ill, and in the community they're trying to prevent the spread of that disease. And obviously, if people come to the mosque, that's a hypothetical situation.
It's not. I mean, it's actually. Sorry, Abdullah Hassan.
Spread of the disease, spread of the illness. Then there's a possibility perhaps they can advise, they can give some guidance to the Muslim community. But I think even before that, every individual needs to understand, Muslims in particular, understand that if they are ill and that illness is contagious, then they should, they have a dispensation from the Sharia, a concession from the Sharia that they do not have to go to the mosque and pray if they know for sure that other people will be contaminated by them.
Yeah,
I think we have to use our own intelligence
that's right. I think
and common sense to do that. I mean, if there is a massive, severe outbreak in the community, then I think the mosque committee and others, leadership, they can do that. And I think there's something that they need to do. I think even before the individually, we have to be mature enough to understand that, like, if I have an illness which is contagious, then I need to avoid people. If I as a father, for example, if I have an illness, I would not want my children to be contaminated, to fall ill from me. I would try my utmost best to avoid them, not because I don't love them, obviously, but I avoid them because I love them. I don't want them to fall ill like me. It's the same way. I think that kind of understanding we should have as individuals in a society.
With that understanding, obviously, I totally agree that you need a bit of common sense applied here as well, and it's individuals that need to make that judgment. But surely, I mean, obviously, illness plays a big role in society and the growth of society as well, and it also plays into commerce and economics. Like, for example, if there's a lot of people during a virus, not able to go to work, then it has an impact on the companies. If the company's affected, then it has an impact on the economy. So you've got a kind of a domino effect taking place. Now, within the Muslim communities, we've got a lot of business people, we've got people who are working in the professional industry, and the mosque is the central place where everybody comes, and also we know some of these viruses, they tend to come at certain seasons, and when a community's got it, everyone's got it, and the common sense tells people that, look, you're going to get it, so therefore weather it out, 4 or 5 days. But the impact it has on, not just on as a purification, but the impact it has on people's businesses and jobs and that, because one member of the family having a virus means the rest of the family is going to have it. Now, a lot of people may not apply your common sense in staying away from the children, but it means that the children are not also missing school because you've managed to contain yourself. You've actually slept in another room instead of interacting with your children, so that they can then have their 1 week or 2 weeks. Otherwise, once a virus hits the family, then that whole family is affected. One virus that goes into the school affects the other children, and then it kind of spreads. So surely, from a perspective where a lot of people are going to the masjid, if people don't use that common sense, then we are actually, in a way, kind of not using our common sense, but harming each other. Do you think we should have a stronger ethical value on this, or we should just kind of?
I think we should, but I think it would start from. We don't want our mosque to become a police force, or we don't want people to interfere in this kind of situation. I think the most important thing is about education. I think we need to educate the community, educate our family members, educate the wider community about how to deal and approach these sensitive issues. If the people are falling in, then we need to try and again use our common sense. So I think to actually impose upon the mosque, impose upon of the community of the mosque, how would they be able to impose? Are they going to stand next to the door and say, and say, are you ill?
Or maybe just
from coming to the mosque.
No. Maybe
that could be.
I think on a simplistic note, what could happen is that maybe at a Jummah khutbah, the Imam could actually explain about.
Absolutely.
So I think education is very important.
That's part of education. Offering lectures, seminars, and during the Jummah khutbah, the Imam can explain and give strong guidance on what to do in this situation. I think that's something that Imams need to do and they should do.
Okay, great, excellent. That's on the kind of illnesses. I just want to move you along to some other questions. I'm going to have the other questions kind of like open, if that's okay with you. Inshallah, yeah. I want to explore an international issue, and that issue is quite important. I've also asked my deputy mayor for Tower Hamlets to actually give his perspective. Very recently, last week, we had Parliament exercise their right to vote in recognising a Palestinian state. Obviously, half of members of the Parliament kind of took part, and many didn't even bother to turn up. Some members of Parliament kind of abstained on that as well. What's your opinion on the vote and recognising Palestine as a state and an entity?
Every people, they need to, govern themselves. They need to feel empowered. And they need to be, live in a sovereign country. They should not be dictated by others, external, communities. So in terms of Palestinians, that is their land, and they have, the right to, form a government, form a sovereign state where they can be governed to the best of their ability. And I think if the international community, our government in the UK and others, they need to, do their utmost best to help. Unfortunately, a lot of the Western governments, left that region to actually go into chaos because of our government. We can say, as many people have been saying, it's pretty mess in the first place. And I think it is a moral duty for everyone really to try and see the best way to rectify the big mess that region is in. We are in a situation where there is a Israeli state, and we need to acknowledge that there are at the moment, but also we have to acknowledge that that Palestinian a state of their own, for them to be governed, for them to be empowered, and that's something that if the politicians can help, I think they should help.
Great, excellent, fantastic. Obviously, the only difficulty is that the vote has no legal binding. The government is not obliged to actually implement that.
I think again, it's about perception, and it's about raising the awareness of those people who are oppressed, whether in Palestine or other places. And I think what this will send out is a message to the international community that people are concerned with the plight of the Palestinians. The people are what is happening, because a lot of money that is taking place in that region, and perhaps you can argue outside, is due to the instability of that region because of the Palestine-Israel conflict. And I think the international community, the politicians, our government, they need to try and, if the best solution is this two-state solution, I think the international community needs to do their utmost best to, help both the Palestinians and Israelis to settle this matter once and for all. Allow the Palestinians to form a state.
Well, just for that to take place, there must be peace in the area, and both sides need to be able to give. And at the moment, one side is not giving but taking.
We are in a situation we can't. I think, and as Muslims, we have to acknowledge that we can't, continue. Palestinians, they can't continue like this. The Israelis, they can't continue fighting each other, and it only serves certain groups of people. For I think, people who are losing out are the innocent men and women and children who are in the middle of things. They just want to live their life. They don't want to be concerned with fighting or with politics. They just want to put food on their plate. They want to go to school. They want to work. They want to, enjoy their life. And I think, this situation has gone for so long, and I think if it carries on, the carnage and the turbulence that we see in that region will only increase. And I think we need to acknowledge there is an Israeli state, and now there needs to be some sort of a Palestinian state.
Okay, well, we'll have to see what happens. But, with all the turmoils that are happening, you've also mentioned that diseases...
Hello, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, great, excellent, yeah. So Yeah, so we with these kind of problems that we're facing, especially with Palestine. I mean, you're probably aware today, on Friday, Masjid al-Aqsa was attacked, and the worshippers were actually barred from actually worshipping from inside the masjid itself. On one side, Israel wants peace, but on the other side, it's actually taking land, occupying land, building, and also refusing the basic rights of the Palestinian people. Do you blame people if people now argue the case for only a one-state solution, which is for a Palestinian land, and the Israelis should live together as one entity rather than two states?
You know, I think for us as Muslims living in the UK society, I think people in that region, they are more experienced and they are more aware of what is best for them. Yeah, in Israel, in Palestine, in that region, they know. I think for us to say, the two-state solution or the one-state solution, no state solution, whatever, and to theorize these issues, I think, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, it's not very, very helpful because they have their own concerns, they have their own understanding, they will know what best protocols to follow to get themselves out of this mess. What we need to ensure is that there's no killing on both sides. There's no oppression on both sides, and we have to ask the Israelis, because they are the state which is more empowered and in terms of government. So maturity and responsibility that they don't oppress the Palestinian people. But I think for us to stipulate what is best or not, I think we can do that. But I think what we need to do as Muslims, primarily we need to make dua and for those people who are oppressed. And secondly, we need to ask our MPs if they can help, or however they can help, that they should help.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a controversial question now. A lot of Muslims may say that the Palestinian people are fighting for a nationalistic cause. It's not an Islamic cause. So why should the Muslims support the Palestinian people?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, the question is, a lot of Muslims may argue this and say that the Palestinian people are fighting for a nationalistic cause, which is a Palestinian land. It's not an Islamic cause. The Palestinian people are not fighting for an Islamic state. Henceforth, why should the Muslim communities in the Middle East as well as abroad support the Palestinian people?
Mm-hmm. I think... in terms of what do we mean by a nationalistic cause? What do we mean by Islamic
well,
cause? If a group of people, if a nation are being bombarded and attacked, people are being killed left, right, and center, and they want to form their own government. They want to create create stability in the societies in that region. And then, what has nationalism or Islam what to do with it? They just want to live as dignified, honored human beings. And I think, once we go into that kind of dichotomy, and these people, they're not Islamic. What Islamic or what makes them un-Islamic? You see what I'm trying to say?
Well, I mean, personally, I don't have a problem.
What we need to focus on is justice, because justice is part of Islam. We need to focus on fairness, which is part of Islam. We need to focus on human rights, again, which is part of Islam. So I think to that dichotomy of where these people are not fighting for Islamic cause. What do you mean by that? Or these people are Islam. What do we mean by that? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, help the oppressed, and whether these people are Muslims or non-Muslims, if they're being oppressed, then the international community, they need to help them if they're being oppressed. I think to look at from those two angles is very, very simplistic, because again, the politics is very nuanced, and there's on the ground there's so many dynamics, And just to basically look at it from those two categories, I think is very simplistic, to say the least. That's my personal opinion.
No, fantastic, Brother Abdullah Hassan. It is a pleasure to have you on. And one of the things we will do is time to time call upon you to kind of give us some information and knowledge, and also your perspective on various different issues and that. Due to time, I do have to come to an end. So, Brother Hassan, thank you very much for actually talking to Middle Path Radio listeners. It's very important that we get brothers yourself on board. Hopefully, you could support the radio station as well, and also inform a lot of your people who learn from you as well. Due to time, we have to conclude here. Do you want last 1 minute, if you want to give us a quick nasir, then we will conclude.
I think nasir really, as Muslims living in the UK, we need to become more active in our society, be positive in the society. And the only way we can do that is by educating ourselves, becoming more literate in Islam, also becoming more literate in the wider society, inshallah.
Jazakallah, Brother Abdullah Hassan. Hopefully we'll have you on Middle Path Radio in the near future. And thank you very much. Drive safely. The brothers who are actually driving you back, make sure that they keep their eyes on the road, yeah? Okay, Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. Okay, well, time's permitting, and my program producer is asking me to kind of like get at the office here, and I wasn't aware. We've actually exceeded the time that we're supposed to be here, but I've really enjoyed it today. We've had a good discussion on a Saturday evening. You're going to have me every Saturdays here from 9 o'clock. I can't guarantee you I'm going to do a marathon, but I can guarantee you at least I'll be here for an hour, and if the discussion are prolonged, then I'll try and kind of like stretch another half an hour to an hour, yeah? But I think just as a quick summary, we talked and discussed a little bit about Tower Hamlets. We had the Deputy Mayor, Oli Rahman, here, who gave us his portfolio as well as the challenges and the good things that are happening in the borough. And it's very important for us to get an insight of the borough. Time to time, we'll bring different political figures and community activists on board. Yes, we are an Islamic internet-based radio station, but, being an Islamic internet-based radio station means also it's serving the wider community, and there are issues in the wider community that affects us all, and we can all learn from each other. Wherever you are, whatever part of the world you are, you can actually learn more about what's happening in London, UK. We will also talk about international issues. We'll bring those issues on board. I'll interview someone every week. I'll actually get people to call us, or we'll call them. I'm going to do random calls on certain people as well to get their perspective on various different takes. If you got any issues and if you want to promote community matters, then please, email us on info@middlepathradio.com, info@middlepathradio.com, and share and spread the word. Middle Path Radio is growing very fast, and I'm going to be your host every Saturday. So please join me next Saturday at the same time, 9 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Middle Path Radio, your number one Islamic talk station.
Call the studio or send a WhatsApp / text message to 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. Email info@middlepathradio.com or visit middlepathradio.com.